Trigg! I love you!
Oh my goodness, we did it!
Yeah.
You think that the high-tech magician wouldn't have so much trouble? You'd think the high-tech magician wouldn't have so much trouble joining a virtual show, would you? This is
Well, you know what?
defying expectations.
Well, this is kind of new for me, and I don't know what advice really to give. It's awesome. You made it.
I made it, and I apologize to you and the viewers for being a minute late. It was a problem of me being a minute late, and then apparently me also clicking on a link that looks identical, but apparently isn't.
No.
They both end in TTRUPC4B, but apparently one is last week and one is this week.
Yeah, well, awesome. So tell me, have you been doing magic like all your life? Are you like one of these 4-year-old, 5-year-olds that went and pulled quarters out of people's ears all the time?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I saw my first magician when I was about 4 years old. So you hit the nail on the head. Started young. I went to a kid's birthday party, and there was a magician there. He made something appear inside my hand. I was amazed. I went to the library, got some magic books, and that was the beginning.
So do you develop most of all your magic tricks then?
I do. I started off, reading books and learning that way, but pretty quickly, the more I had, ideas for new effects, you kind of run out of, when you're sort of creating new stuff, you don't have any resources other than just taking your imagination and combining it with, existing magic effects in new ways. So for me, often, I'm taking existing principles that are kind of from my backlog of, experience, performing all kinds of different magic tricks in all kinds of different environments, and then updating them to fit the modern world. And I mean, you're looking at like the picture perfect version of my magic studio right now, but if I just give you a little bit of a switch over, this is my raw materials. This is where
Wow.
I keep all of my building supplies. If I have any idea for any new magic effect, I have everything QR coded, linked to a digital database, so I can pretty quickly prototype new effects and new ideas, with the materials that I have at my disposal.
Does that mean you're a computer programmer too or something?
So I'm a magician first. I mean, I have a background in, tech, but I'm not a developer. I'm not a programmer, but I often have ideas that require that sort of expertise. So, I've gotten pretty good about, even if I don't have the necessary skill set to bring something to life, I know who to go to help me bring those ideas, into fruition.
So Trigg, thanks for coming on. I'm Mixlam.
My pleasure.
I help Miles out on different things on his channel sometimes, and I say I'm a big fan. I love magicians. I'm a huge thing. I'm the biggest David Blaine fan.
Oh sure, yeah, David's great.
I eat this stuff up, and this is a repeat for everybody that listens to the show and hears me. This is the kind of stuff you and the acrobats and the people that eat the fire. That's what AGT is for me. I can do without the singing and dancing. I see that all the time. I want to see real cool stuff. And I think what you do is really, really cool. So my question, because I'm always interested in this with people who go on these shows, is it just one day you decide, hey, I'm going to try out for AGT and stand in a line of 10,000 people like they show on TV? Or does somebody ask you to try out? Or do you already have a career and there's an agent, or there's somebody that calls you that gets you on that stage to try out in front of the actual judges on TV? How does that process work for you personally?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think all of those channels and stories are valid for, different people. Some people show up on the day, just wait in line until a producer sees them. Other people have agents that sort of recommend they try out for different shows. For me, this is the third time auditioning for America's Got Talent. My first audition, I was contacted by someone who thought I'd be a good fit. This was back in 2000. Gosh, I think it was 2013, maybe. And I put together an act and drove myself down to Houston because that was where the cattle call auditions were. and performed my act in a room in like a seedy conference room for a couple lower level producers.
Yep.
And I never heard from them. So that was sort of, just like did my best, but clearly it wasn't what they were looking for. But then I had a couple, I appeared on Penn and Teller's Fool Us back in 2015 and did a couple of the TV shows. And like every year, like I'd say like most, it doesn't say much to say that America's Got Talent people reached out to me, because as variety entertainers, America's Got Talent reaches out to everybody. They want TV. They're starved for content. They have to fill 200 slots every year with brand new stuff. So they're constantly emailing us, saying, "Hey, are you available? Is there anything you'd be good for the show?" So I've sort of been, for a while, not feeling like I had the right material to share for the show, even though I was getting requests. And that said, in 2021, as the pandemic was kind of, beginning to subside, I felt like I finally had a routine that was a good fit, and ended up performing it. I already at this point, I had met a couple times with an AGT producer who had an interest in my work specifically. And as a result, when you get to a certain point, you have a good relationship with the casting producer. That takes some of the legwork out of, trying to get your material seen. And I was fortunate enough that at the time, this producer in 2021, took an interest in me and my act. And there were still, several rounds of, pitching the act to others, but I sort of felt like I had someone that was, believed in me and believed in the potential of the act. I am featured on season 16 of AGT. This is not many people would realize it, because I was only on camera for on the screen for 2 seconds.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Or less. You wouldn't. I'm in an opening montage. There's a picture of me holding a candle up to a balloon on a TV screen, and the real balloon is popping in Sofia Vergara's hand. It's a little Easter egg. It's in the opening montage of season 16. Happy to say, I had a really good audition, super positive judges' response, but they're making a reality show. They're not making a fair competition, show. Sure. AGT is a talent show, but it's also a reality show. Right. And they film so much more content than they can actually share. And unfortunately my act didn't end up getting featured, even though it went well. So it kind of gave me some confidence to feel like, wow, even though it didn't work out this time, I now know what the process is. I've had the experience of performing in front of the judges. If and when I have another piece of magic that I feel like is a good fit for the show, I might try again. And of course, that's what happened.
So in other words, you were in front of the judges 2 times then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, correct. Okay. I had an audition performance back in 2021.
Well, I'd like just one, but I'm wearing my Simon shirt.
Hey, there you go.
It didn't get me on, so I don't know. I'm just not a good enough singer or something, whatever. The last time that I auditioned, I took with me a blow-up doll and tried to make my act a little bit humorous, but it didn't work either, so, whatever.
Well, if I've learned anything, persistence is key. I mean, it took me a while to, I've been talking with them for a bunch of years. So I think maybe maybe 2 blow-up dolls. Maybe multiple.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Just go bigger.
Yeah.
So for this past time, so you didn't have to go to a location, or did you send in a video, or were you kind of already in the works?
No, I think for everybody, these days, I think I could be wrong, but I think post-pandemic, pretty much everything starts with a video submission. Yeah. Whether you've already or whether you already have connected in the past, with a casting producer, or whether you're submitting on the website. It starts with having an act that, is good for TV. And in my experience, I've been performing professionally for years. I have, over 2 hours of stage material. Very little of any of those routines are a good fit for America's Got Talent. It's such a unique show that plays by different rules than like a normal live show. Like most of my routines are over 5 minutes in length. AGT needs 90 seconds to 3 minutes in length. Ideally, you're incorporating the judges, into your performance, because again, the show is so focused on the personalities that everyone knows and loves. It's really tough to take existing material and make it work for the show. And I think that's why, in part, the act that I just did had the response it got, because it was designed specifically for that audience, for that show, for the audition.
So we got a question. Yeah. Hang on, Miles, if I can jump in. We have a question from Teresa in the chat on YouTube, and she says, how do you have a video tryout with magic? And I think what she means is, how do you, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but how do you, magic seems really impressive when you're in front of me, but if I'm just putting it on a video, it might seem less impressive. I'm like, you could have done anything with a video. So how do you decide? How do you decide the kind of thing you're going to put on I don't know, I'm guessing 1 to 2 minute video probably to impress somebody?
It's a good question. I think if someone's going to hire me to do a show, then they want footage of me performing for a live audience, and they want footage of the live audience reacting to what I'm doing, so that they can see, oh, this is, this performer's legit, and look at the response of the audience. For AGT, these are TV producers, right? These are people that are thinking about what, we need to make sure that everyone is engaged, the viewers are watching and finding every frame interesting. So, you have to think about that. Well, how can I create an act that creates an interesting TV frame that isn't going to make people want to change the channel? So, fortunately, the TV producers, know that you filming your act in a living room isn't going to look as good as, being performed on stage. But, as long as they know that, you're doing isn't just a camera trick, and that you're doing this live, which I guess comes from an element of trust of that you're not just, you better be able to deliver on what you show them. But I basically put together an early version of the act you saw, with me standing 3 minute long act where me standing, with my TV monitor directly towards the camera, and just pretty much doing it, as it was going to be ultimately performed. And I think they can see that vision. Now, I will say, when I auditioned in 2021, my act involved the judges a little bit more, where as opposed to me incorporating them onto a TV screen, I was actually interacting with them during the act. So I would go into the audience, and I took one of a straw out of Howie's Snapple cup and put it on top of his cup, and I made the straw fall off from through a camera feed, and then I had Sophia come up on stage and hold the balloon. So I actually mocked up a judge's setup where I put a camera on 3 of my friends seated at a table, and then I had another camera aimed on my stage, which was my studio, my living room area, and I had people play the role of the 4 judges.
And that's what you submitted as your video?
Yeah. So because the producers, they're thinking, what is this final edit going to look like? How is this going to look on TV? And if you can not make them have to make mental leaps about well, how would this actually work on TV? They saw, I was like, okay, that's, he would get Sophia up, and there's someone, playing the role of Sophia here. That was a unique routine, that it was very, it was bringing judges up on stage. So I needed people to be those placeholders.
Brainstorming that's
so
awesome.
So since I don't want to go all night, so we stay on our time thing here. Miles, I want to give you one more question, because then I got one more question, so that we can go kind of maybe another 10 minutes here or something.
So my question?
Yeah, because I got a good one that I want to know the answer to, but
this one is kind of AGT, not really AGT related. Is what kind of places do you perform besides cruise ships?
I don't perform on a lot of cruise ships. I just had a couple bookings recently after AGT. It just happened to be on my year. I would say these days I maybe do 1 or 2 cruise ships a year, because I enjoy getting paid to travel and enjoy, getting to perform in big, beautiful theaters. Most of my performances these days are for college campuses. I tour schools with a high-tech magic show that I perform in theaters as an on-campus show that schools book, so that there's something fun for students to see during the semester, maybe during a family weekend event, or maybe just as a break from finals, just give everyone a fun thing to enjoy. at the end of a long week of studying or exams. I also perform corporate events. So I get hired to perform for a variety of sales meetings, corporate banquets, where people are looking for entertainment, or maybe even looking for a way to incorporate their product into the show in some way. So
good thinking, good marketing.
yeah. So, that's sort of my world. I mean, I also, I tour theaters, I do cruise ships. I had a monthly show at a wine bar for a while. I've worked as a magic consultant, designing magic effects for other magicians on TV shows, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties. Like at this point, I feel like I've done every conceivable venue, over the past, what was it? Let me see. I mean, 25 years that I've been doing magic professionally.
Do you have an agent, or do you book everything yourself?
I have a few, I would say for magicians, it's often common to have different agents for different markets. So I have an agent that will represent me for cruise ships. I have an agent that represents me for college campuses. But that said, the work doesn't just kind of land in my lap. I actually, show up at college showcase events where I show what I do, in front of prospective, student advisors that have a budget to bring in entertainment on their school. Most of my corporate bookings, I book and manage myself. I do have a couple agents that might reach out to me for, specific events, but, I kind of have a background in tech and business. I had a job for a while that, gave me the confidence to kind of know how, corporate events kind of run. And I've gotten pretty good about, being able to, pitch what I do in a way that, is seen as valuable for corporate gatherings.
Awesome.
Well, so, Trigg, I've got a question for you. And while you're answering this question, you can think about what you want to do, because I'm just looking at the chat. We don't have a huge audience yet, but we do have a passionate audience. And they're all saying we want Trigg to do magic for us. We have all these comments. Yeah, Kenny, feel like, yeah, do it. So can you do one magic trick for us before we end here? So,
man, I'm trying to think what you...
I'm going to ask you a question. If you could think, even if it's something little, like a little card trick or something, just so everybody leaves happy. Now, if you want to disappoint everybody, you can do that too.
I feel like this would be the way to disappoint everyone.
There you go.
Oh, that's amazing! How'd you do that?
I tell you what, let's try something. We'll try something simple. It might be something else I can pull out of my sleeve. But first, you can help me out.
So first, let me ask my question, and then I'm going to end with your trick.
Go for it.
Because here's what I've been wondering. Magic's one of those things where when a kid wants to be a magician, you show everybody your tricks, and everybody goes, "That's really cute. That's really cool." And you go, "One day I'm going to be a magician, and I'm going to quit my job." And everybody's like, "Come on, you can't quit your job to be a magician. You can't do this." And even if you don't make a lot of money, right? Enough to let's just say enough money that you can rent an apartment. You're not working where you're working, and you don't make tons of money, but you make enough to pay the rent. At what point do you know you're a magician? Like, not just with the talent, but with the means. If there's somebody watching at some point right now and they're 15 years old, how do you know when is the point that I'm a real magician and I think I could make the equivalent of $30 an hour, like doing this full time? I don't need to wait tables anymore at 25 years old. I could actually do this. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I feel like a difficult question to answer succinctly.
Is it a talent thing, or is it an opportunity thing, or is it a mix?
I think it's both. I think there's an old phrase, people say that, in show business, the word business is longer than the word show. And there's a reason for that, because it takes up, I spend 80% of my time selling my show and 20% of my time being a real magician is how it feels. I think it's about business savvy as well. It's knowing how to, no one really needs a magician, but they do need someone to entertain. If you're in a restaurant, you need someone to keep people entertained while they wait for their meal. And if you're a mother or a dad and you want to give your kid the best birthday party ever and give them an experience they won't forget, then they might want a magician. And if a company needs to, needs to capture and surprise their customers and get them excited about a product, then maybe they need someone that can make it magically appear. There's a Zig Ziglar quote that's, you can get anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And for me, I think, over my time figuring out how to pay rent as a magician, it's been figuring out, okay, what problem am I solving with my card tricks? Sure, I'm entertaining people and I'm making people happy and I'm bringing, smiles to their faces, but like, what's, what within, the context of who's hiring me, why are they hiring me? And it's probably not just because they know that I can find their card that they picked. It's because they want to give their people an experience they'll never forget, or they want to, put smiles on their friends' faces, So I think, it's talent. You certainly need to be a good magician if consistently people are saying, oh my gosh, that was amazing, you should audition for America's Got Talent. That might be a sign that you're like a good magician that like could make a living with what you do.
Right.
And then I think, in terms of viability, it's about, maybe finding mentors, finding ways that you can just start working. I think it's more about just jumping in and doing it, and, maybe have a side hustle, maybe have a day job for a while. I mean, there's no reason you can't, magic is one of those art forms where you can work when other people aren't working. So you can have a 9 to 5 and then work at nights and weekends and, hone your show. And then at some point you just have to make that scary jump, and it will always feel like a scary jump, no matter, how successful you feel like you are or how much the potential is there. It's just a leap you have to take.
All right.
I love your thought process of
good
how you would
answer.
develop your talent or your abilities and market yourself. Lessons that people really need to take notice to. That's awesome.
All right. Well, I think we're ready for your trick.
All right, let's do it.
see what we
We're gonna
got.
do two
Let's see what we
things.
got.
How much time do I have, by the way?
We'll give you as much as you need for a trick.
Oh, all right, great.
So,
There's a limit on how much I can have, but when it comes to magic, I have full reign.
all right.
All right, help me out, both of you, if you could hold out your arms like this, and if you're watching, I say reincarnation spelled differently, and 1 MMMXR.
Immortal is how you say that. I didn't know how to say it either. They told us.
Now I get it. It's like an internet password spelling. All right, hold your arms like this. I want you to cross your arms like so. And now rotate your thumbs downward. Like that. Yeah, there you go. And slowly interlace your fingers. So you're locking them in place. Yeah, good. Now when you do this, make sure that your thumbs are pointed directly towards the floor, right? As much as possible. I know it's a little hard, but keep them pointed directly towards the floor. Keep your fingers interlaced. Everyone follow me on the count of 3, okay? 1, 2, 3.
What did you do? What? I can't do that.
I can't do it.
You've probably, had a lot of stuff to talk about over the show, but I guarantee you what I just did, that will be what keeps everyone up at night. And I apologize.
That was good.
All right. That was more of a puzzle than a magic trick. I would like to, maybe I'll take it up a notch. I'm going to put this right here on my table. This will be very important in just a moment. Now, first of all, I think it's probably pretty apparent, but I do just want to confirm that neither Mixlam nor Miles, you didn't know that we were going to do this. We haven't prearranged anything like that. You didn't even know if I was going to show up tonight.
Yeah.
Like, where is this guy?
That was the first magic trick. You weren't even going to show up.
And then I magically appeared. All right. So here's the idea. I'm going to ask both of you to make some random decisions. All right. I want you to imagine that I have a deck of cards in my hand. It's a virtual deck of cards. It's imaginary. But imagine there's face cards, there's number cards, and we'll start off with Mixlam. Face cards and number cards. You get to decide. If I remove one group, did I remove the face cards or the number cards?
Face cards.
The face cards. Okay. Now, just to confirm, would you like to use the face cards, or are we removing them and throwing them away?
I'll use the face cards.
You'll use the face cards. Okay, so that leaves us with jacks, queens, and kings, right? Miles, I want you to decide. Are we going to use a jack, a queen, or a king?
Let's go with the queen.
A queen. All right, I'll get rid of the jacks and the kings. We got the queens remaining. I'm going to defer back to you, Mixlam. We got queens. We've got red queens and black queens. You get to decide. Are we going to use red queens or black queens?
Let's use black queens.
Black queens. Okay, so that would be the queen of spades and the queen of clubs. One has the sort of 3 little puppy feet circles. The other has a pointy top. Miles, you get to decide. Are we going to use the queen of spades or the queen of clubs?
I always call them the shovels, but let's use the spades.
The spades. Okay, now this is the moment. This is a moment because we're narrowing down to a single playing card. This is the moment that you're going to wonder tonight at 3 a.m. when you're having trouble sleeping, what would have happened if I had chosen the queen of clubs instead? So I'm going to give you one more chance because I don't want you to feel like I'm somehow psychologically manipulating you. I'm going to give you one opportunity to change your mind or to stick with that queen of did you say queen of spades?
Let's go with the clubs. I don't want to be
You're
up
going
all
to go to
night.
the clubs. Okay, the queen of clubs.
Yeah.
Final answer?
Clubs.
Okay. All right. Now I'm just to be safe here, I'm going to angle my camera down slightly just so everyone gets a little bit of a better view of the table here. You'll see I've had this paper bag in full view in front of me the entire time, inside of which you'll see that there's nothing else inside the bag except for this single clip, this like bulldog clip. Here, I'll move it a little bit closer so you all can see.
Yeah.
Here, just a card in a clip. And the fact that we're able to eliminate all cards so quickly is based on the decisions that each of you made, right? One card only. That would be the queen.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So good.
That's amazing.
That's so good.
Nothing was reversed.
1 out of 52 times that works. So
Yeah.
I feel really good about myself. I took a chance.
That was awesome. Awesome.
love
Thank
it.
you.
Especially on a whim.
On a whim. Well, you're like a virtual show tomorrow over Zoom. So I was like, what can I do here? What do we got?
So, yeah, awesome. I love it. Trigg, you seem like an awesome guy. We haven't even talked before this, so this is our first introduction. You seem like an awesome guy. I love your stuff.
Thank you. Likewise.
Best of luck on AGT. I'm pulling for you. I'm pulling for all you magicians.
Thank you.
It's very.
There's a lot of us this season.
There is, and there's very rarely a magician where I'm just like, I don't like him. Like they really have to have no personality and something that's not very creative. Because most of the time I'm on board. And if you ever want to, use one of us in one of your acts, we're more than willing to do that.
Only if Miles brings his blow up.
Yeah,
I can. I still have it.
Where's the Simon shirt?
Yeah, Miles can bring his girlfriend.
The full look.
I
I appreciate that. If I need extra backup stage showgirls and showmen.
Yeah, and if
you just kind of add to the drama. If you can just give some hands, just lots of.
You'll have some real show experience.
Do you watch AGT or are you just on AGT?
I watch it mostly because I want to see. I'm curious. I mean, the talent's great on the show. I enjoy seeing how different people's stories are shared. I would say, given that I'm on the show, I am watching every single episode. In prior years, I might watch, just my favorite acts on YouTube. But for me, I'm much more invested this year for obvious reasons, and I like to see how the viewers are showed different acts and learn about the stories. And what I'm excited about is I might get to meet some of these other acts, these other contestants, and I want to be able to. Fingers crossed if I make it on the judge cuts round, and fingers crossed I make it to the live shows, the semifinals. I want to be able to see people and say, "Oh, I loved your audition," and I don't want to be LA fake about it.
So one thing that we do on our show, I mean, this is only our 3rd episode. I've done things in the past actually that have been semi-popular podcasts and things, but we're just starting this thing because I just thought that would sound fun. And one thing that we do, I'm sure you haven't seen us probably already since it's only our third time, but we go through all the acts and we review them of what we think about them. So I'm telling you right now, if you ever want to come on with us and promote whatever you got on, if you want to go through acts with us and give your opinions about them with us, you're always more than welcome. You have an open invitation.
Oh, thanks.
Thank always you.
Be on I feel like that could get me in trouble if I like give overhanded praise to one of my fellow contestants and then say nothing about
you might have to do it a different season.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe bring me back as a veteran.
Yeah.
Perhaps, right? I could be a pundit.
After you win this year, we'll bring you back on, and then we'll say champion Trigg Watson.
I like the sound of that. I like that title.
So, Trigg, give us anything you want to promote, where people can find you, anything that you want to say to the audience. If you're watching on YouTube, we say right at the bottom of this video, we've got a bunch of links to the people that we have on this show and where you can find them. But Trigg, go ahead and say anything that you want to say, because you deserve to be promoted.
Thank you. I appreciate that. For me, I think the biggest thing this summer, it's about people being willing to follow my journey and support me with votes, if and when, fingers crossed, I make it to the live shows. I won't know until we go through judge cuts. But if I do make it through, that's the best thing to do. Is I'd love for you to follow me on social media. And I'm also going to be sharing content along the way. I'm going to be sharing, my development process of working on new magic that I might do on future rounds. If I do, I like to take people on behind the scenes of like various shows that I do. And that's going to be where I also let people know about when I'm going to appear on future rounds, fingers crossed. So you can find me on all the social media, the same handle, @Trigg Watson. That is TRIGG, and then Watson, like elementary, my dear Watson, or the IBM computer Watson, or any other Watson that you know. Same spelling.
All right, excellent. Well, like I said, you have a open invitation to come back, whether you want to trash other people on the show, or you just want to come promote yourself as champion. Whatever you want to do, you can come back and we'll help you out. You have an open invitation. Trigg, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Definitely a pleasure.
Glad it worked out.
Me too. Gosh, I'm sorry for being so difficult, but I'm glad it worked out. Great to meet you both. Great to chat.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trigg.